What up, y'all? Back at it again. This is Corey with Final Notice Media, and today I got you a good little juicy article about Captain Marvel and how like her whole twist is a bunch of BS. And so far, we'll see. This one's brought to you by Screen Rant. Don't think I'll get copyright stricken on this one like I did with the Star Wars Ryan Johnson fiasco. Sorry, I know watching me like reading like this is pretty boring, but I didn't want to just scrap the video. Screw it, I'll put it out like that. So if you liked it, thank you, I appreciate it, but this one will be better, I promise. I'll get these things up. Screen Rant likes the publicity, I'm assuming. So this is written by Andrew Dice, and the title of the article is on the screen. Captain Marvel's Avenger, in quotes, twist. The MCU's lamest moment with a question mark. And so before I even get into reading this article, all I saw was the headline. I was like, I think I might like this. I think you might like this. If you watch the movie, if you haven't watched the movie, it's kind of like a giveaway because they did it at the end of the Infinity Stones movie. But, you know, Captain Marvel is the original Avenger. So, you know, remember that whole movie they made called Captain America, the First Avenger? Like, I guess that's not the truth. He wasn't the first Avenger. She's the first Avenger. So, we'll see. I mean, most of the time, the writers and directors and all the screenplay guys that come up with all the storyboards for the MCU's movies, their plots and their stories, they usually are very consistent. You know, you don't really get too much continuity errors like between movies and things like that. So like it's like what? What's going on here? So I mean, granted, some of the movies are bad, but most of the time at least they fit within the whole context of the whole story. And so it's kind of like unraveling a bit. Like that's the feeling I'm getting anyway, especially with Captain Marvel throwing her in at the very end, like she's gonna be the game changer. Like I just laid that bad taste in my mouth when they like bring that crap up. But anyway, I could go on about that for a long time. I like the characters in the MCU. We don't need to bring anybody else in. Let's have them figure it out and end this phase of the story, and then bring Captain Marvel in. Like that'd be perfectly cool with me. But that's not what's going on. But let's see what the article says. Written by Andrew Dice. Once again, link in the description below. As always, before I kick this off, if you like my videos, please subscribe and hit the bell, because notifications don't matter anymore. You gotta hit the bell to know when I drop new things. And also sharing by word of mouth or on social media, that's cool too. But if you like it, please do me that solid. I'm giving $1,000. I'm giving $100 away at 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Because if you don't know the little secret, that's the tipping point to get monetized. So show me some love, I'll show you some love in a giveaway. With that said, let's kick this off. Captain Marvel may be meeting the MCU's greatest heroes for the first time in Avengers Endgame, which comes out in April. It's soon. It's like the 26th, I believe. But her origin movie revealed that the Avengers were following her lead from the very start. Some of Marvel's least subtle universe building thus far. But more distressingly, the least cool change from the comic book lore that Marvel movies have made thus far. Hold on. Andrew Dice. Hey man, you can't say thus far twice in one sentence. It's not right. That qualifier is important since our issue with Captain Marvel's Avenger twist have nothing to do with changing from the comics, period. Captain Marvel sticks to the comic book source material for most of the film, and even does greater justice for the Skrulls than the comics ever have. And like most of the MCU's films, changes what it must for the movies. But for a movie which is just like its heroine, doesn't care about earning approvals, this is hilarious, doesn't have anything to prove, and keeps the story simple, the Avenger connection defies that spirit. I like you already, Andrew. But the biggest reason we can't get over the Captain Marvel using the Avenger name to make Carol Danvers even cooler, that's because the comic book version of Carol explicitly says the twist goes completely against her character. As the film revealed in its final scene, The repeat promise that Captain Marvel would be key to Avengers Endgame, and easily the most overpowered hero in the MCU, weren't quite enough. To demonstrate how integral Carol Danvers was to the larger Marvel universe this whole time, and prove it only seemed like she was long overdue character, Marvel Studios changed their history. Forget Captain America, it was Carol Danvers who was technically the first Avenger in name. Inspired by the discovery of alien warrior heroes, Nick Fury commits an idea to paper, presumably to submit to his superiors at S.H.I.E.L.D. proposing the new initiative, which would be the Avengers Initiative. And yeah, that's a perfect point of what I just said before I even got into this article. So he's kind of dipping on the same things that I was thinking about with the whole, she's the Avenger. Like, hey, we've had a long time, many years, of building this story up to culminate to this point. And now all of a sudden we're like, get in the game, Carol Danvers. You're the first Avenger now. It just doesn't do justice to Captain America, who has become one of my favorite characters in this. I mean, I'll be the first one to say, when all the whole Marvel stuff was first rolling out, I really liked Iron Man 1. I liked Iron Man 2 a lot. I know it wasn't great, but Mickey Rourke is amazing, and I wish he was in it more because he's super duper cool. The whole opening scene when they're on the raceway was like epic in my mind. And then like the other one started rolling out, and the first Thor, I was like, I don't really like the first Thor. Like, I don't know. And then, Captain America, and I was like, all right, this is like, I like the Red Skull, and at least like, okay, there's cool aspects to this. They're setting up Infinity Stones in different locations. Okay, cool. But then as time goes on, I came to like them more and more. Like the Winter Soldier was great. I really liked that movie. Having good old Bucky with the iron arm in there, like that was amazing, and what brought him through too. Like I'm really curious to see who's going to take on the shoes of the next Captain America. Like, is it going to be Falcon? Is it going to be Bucky? It could be either one of those two, and I'm like really excited for both. Honestly, one of my biggest disappointments with the whole MCU throughout its lifetime anyway was not killing, spoiler alert if you're 5 years late to this, but not killing off Captain America at the end of Civil War. Like, that was a big thing in the comic books, and I was like, that's going to be so ballsy if they kill him. I can't believe it. Like, who's going to take over? And then they never killed him. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, the whole thing with Civil War is that Captain America died defending what he believed. Like, he died a hero the way that he lived. And it was, like, really compelling to the story and really pulled you in emotionally. And I think they would have done a lot better in that movie if they would have done that. But then again, you never know. I mean, I do have to say, as much as I would have loved that they did that, the whole Endgame and Infinity Stones with Captain America, I mean, that guy's doing a great job with the acting. There's a lot of pull just from Captain America, especially in the trailers for Endgame. I'm like, good God, this looks amazing. But anyway, let's get back. While filling out his brief, he notices a photograph of Carol Danvers back in her flying days in the cockpit of her assigned aircraft. And there, emblazoned upon a fuselage in bright white letters, is her name and call sign, Carol Avenger Danvers. Deleting the placeholder title, Fury begins his first draft of the Avengers Initiative that will someday unite the MCU's greatest superheroes. In an incredibly cool twist, if you don't if you don't judge any of it too harshly, like the facts of the audience, isn't my team is called the Avengers, and that the change makes some incredibly weird MCU plot holes and inconsistencies in the movies compared to the comic books. You can't get picky with comic book movies not following everything they can with comic books. I mean, this is the same thing, the whole argument you get is the book better than the movie. Of course the book's going to be better than the movie. Is the comic book better than the movies? Of course the comic books are better than the movies. These are years of comic books in the making, shrunken down to an hour and a half to, I don't know, unless you're in an Avengers movie, like 3 hours long. And by the way, Avengers Endgame has released its runtime, 3 hours and 2 minutes, so it's going to be a long one. But you can't really make those comparisons too much. I mean, the only movie that I've ever seen that followed the book like to every single detail almost was Holes. And that's an old one. But if you read the book and you watch the movie, you go, oh shit, this is the book. I just literally watched the book because the book's only like 180 pages long. So they filled it all in. But you can't get picky on that kind of thing. You gotta let the director and the writer and the screenplay guys, you gotta let them do their thing to make their own story, because that's something that they want to do. They don't want to just take someone else's and bring it on in. It'd be like a different story. Like if Frank Miller decided, hey, I want to direct a movie for a comic book series that I've wrote, then yeah, let Frank Miller do it. He knows the ins and outs of it. And that's fared well in the past. All of Frank Miller's graphic novels have turned into really, really good movies throughout the years. But anyway, even if worldwide audience of Marvel movies are long past caring about the comics, the shaky logic behind the effect twist is hard to ignore. For starters, the twist means the Avengers aren't named after Captain Marvel technically, but a woman she used to be, whom audience didn't actually get to know. The film also states that both Carol and her best friend got into the test flights because they weren't allowed in combat, which opens the Avenger call sign up for some teasing, that's so true, as far more performatively cool than Carol's ever could seem to be. And let's just stop ourselves from asking what could possibly be contained in Fury's initiative at the point, because finds good aliens to protect us is basically so that's nice. I like that little throw in that this guy did. Like, hey, well, it's the Avengers initiative. Like, let's just find aliens to protect us. That's quite funny. Good job. And I'm not entirely. I never read Captain Marvel, any of the comic books, so I could really care less. I don't have any ties to it or anything like that. But it's interesting that the writer of this article is stating, like, hey, the person that Captain Marvel would have never signed on to an Avengers initiative or anything like that. It goes against who they are. So I mean, I could see how that could be a big hurt for people that were really big into the comic books. But let's not forget, these movies weren't made for 30 to 40 overgrown man babies. They're made for kids. So keep your opinions to yourself for not liking Avengers. Instead of trying to explain why Avengers isn't just the call sign or identity of Carol Danvers would ever accept, let alone wish to be reminded by, we'll let Carol do it herself. Her pilot background came up years into her service as Miss Marvel, when a date wished to know more about how the real life of a pilot differed from the cool badass portrayals like seen in movies of Top Gun. Since Carol's Air Force call sign wasn't canon, writer Brian Reed came up with one that would project Carol's sense of humor and lack of ego, while also speaking to the challenges and humanity of superheroes in even the most trying situation. According to Carol in Miss Marvel number 11, she doesn't have a cool name like Avenger, because that's not the point of a call sign. For those wondering, the actual comic book call sign of Carol Danvers is revealed to be Cheeseburger. Why couldn't they put Cheeseburger on the side of that plane? That's hilarious. The immediate reaction by many movie fans would be praise the film even more for avoiding such painfully uncool name and given Carol as cool, edgy, dangerous, badass one instead. But that's a large part of our point. Since Carol explains that the reason for choosing the call sign like Cheeseburger is the same thing that arguably defies Marvel superheroes as heroes first. So that's pretty funny. Here's like a little insert of the comic. Oh yeah, I thought everyone knew that. It was on the Discovery Channel and everything. Nobody gets a cool call sign like Maverick or Iceman. If you're in combat and your wingman is calling you Muppet Head, it reminds you that you're not a killing machine. You are in fact a human being, and everybody on base thinks you look like a Muppet. It keeps your ego in check, and you don't do stupid things because of it. It's a strong argument to keep a soldier like a superhero from being pulled down into the worst parts of a war, or losing themselves to a damage they can cause and endure. Even when it comes to DC's famous pilot, Hal Jordan, bearing the call sign Highball. The logic holds. The logic holds. Don't get a big head fighting aliens either. You're still just a goofy human being, and choosing Avenger is exactly the kind of false bravado and posturing that the comic book Carol brushes aside as painfully pedestrian. And that's all pretty interesting. I dig this. This is probably one of the better articles that we've touched on so far since I've kind of revamped this channel and started doing more article-based videos. So I'm happy. I'm very, very happy with this. I hope you are too. It's hard to argue against her, since the Carol of the movie seems more like a mock of rival pilot for giving themselves a cool call sign as overcompensating, which makes the coolness of that final reveal aimed for the movie even less befitting of Carol audiences are introduced to. Unless, of course, she actually does want to seem cool in defiance to her comic book source material. It turns to the very same examples to do it, embracing a name that literally means she inflicts harm and pain, which is exactly aligned with the Marvel brand. A cool call sign it may be, but considering how impervious to pretense, posturing, or bravado Carol Danvers seems both before and after she became the cosmically powered superhero, it's a decision made for coolness' sake, and nothing more lame than trying to be cool. And yeah, that's a very good point. I think that was one of the big problems with the Captain Marvel movie is it was just trying way too hard to be way too many different things. They needed to tone it down a lot. Aside from anything like the geopolitical crap that was being brought up and everything like that, which I've mentioned in prior videos, I mean, this movie was all around pretty bad. It was just a basic popcorn flick, throw it in your mouth and munch on it and get out and don't think about the movie. So it's true, it sounds like the Carol in the comic books is way cooler because she's trying not to be cool, and that's how it works. You can't be a tryhard and people are going to think you're cool. It's not how it goes. So maybe they'll get the hint. Maybe they'll try to turn it around. I don't know. I'm really apprehensive about it though. Even in the Endgame trailer, she looked like a douchebag. She really did when she was standing there looking at Thor and then just and this slight smirk. I was like, really? She's so dry. Ugh, I hate it. But we'll see what goes on with it. Anyways, that's it. This is the video of the article that I read to you to keep you knowledgeable. Thanks again for watching. Core File Notice Media. Hit that subscribe button. Don't be a punk. Like a yo-yo. Lift me up before you go.